Ice pops are easy to make. Layered ice pops take a little bit more patience and skill but are easy to make too. These natural unprocessed ice pop recipes are nothing like the popsicles you are most likely to find at the store, but making ice pops at home has a lot more advantages. Fruit is poached with honey in sealed bags sous vide style to create the fruit syrups. Once the syrups are made, there are a few extra steps involved to get the syrups to freeze into layers. You need to accurately add the right amount of syrup to each layer, so you'll need a shot glass and maybe a small funnel. And you'll need to allow the layer to freeze hard undisturbed in your freezer, so make enough space available. The specialty equipment needed for this project, the way that it's done here, is a sous vide setup and ice pop molds. Depending on the type of ice pop molds you use, ice pop sticks and small clips are needed to hold the sticks in the center of the molds as the ice pop freeze. Then all you need is an assortment of your favorite fresh fruit to make the flavors from. Lemon, lime, grapefruit, orange, mango, key lime, blood orange, raspberry, strawberry, cherry are some of the common fruits to make ice pop syrups with. When it comes to citrus fruits, a large part of the flavor comes from the fruit's oils stored in the fruit's protective coating, so adding the zest to the bag will extract the flavor into the syrup as the fruit is poached better than any type of sweetener. To peel the most common citrus fruits like lemon, lime, grapefruit, orange, and their close relatives, cut the top and bottom off so the fruit lies flat on your cutting board, and slice off the peel, a few centimeters at a time. Follow the contours of the fruit and remove the fruit segments, or slice the peeled fruit so the fruit cooks evenly in the bag. To prepare a mango for poaching, cut away the peel and cut the fruit away from the large seed core. To prepare the Bing cherries, remove the stems and split them open with your fingers to allow the cherries to cook evenly. But cherry juice stains easily, so break the cherries open over top of a bowl to catch the juice. It is also a good idea to wear gloves, and the pits can be removed before or after the cherries are poached and the syrup is strained off. For 250 grams of fruit, add 50 grams of honey to create a syrup of at least 10% sugar. You can test and adjust the sugar after the syrup is strained too. Honey has a natural flavor on its own and is easily absorbed into the citrus juice to help macerate the fruit to create a poaching liquid. If you want to cook the poached fruit syrups into a thicker cocktail-style syrup through simmering slowly on the stove, most of the citrus fruit flavor will become marmalade, and the more natural berry flavors will change into flavors more associated with jam. Cooking the syrup to reduce and thicken the syrup will help to intensify the caramelized flavors and make the pop sweeter and softer too, so there are good reasons why you want to add sugar and the effect the sugar will have. To make the healthiest and most natural version, do not add any sweetener at all and experience the different textures based on natural sugars from the fruit alone. The natural fruit flavor should speak for itself and not be drowned out with the powdered sweeteners of any type. It would not make much sense to add stevia, for example, to an ice pop already high in fructose unless you enjoy the taste and sensation sugar substitutes give you. The different types of honey do not taste the same, so it can be fun to explore different types of local raw unpasteurized honey too. This machine has the option of sealing the bag without using the vacuum, because too much liquid will interfere with the bag sealing under pressure properly. The extra air in the bag will make the bag buoyant when it is cooking in a heated circulated water bath, so get as much air out of the bag as possible before sealing it airtight. Sous vide is an excellent way to poach fruit because you can control the heat very precisely to never go above 85 degrees Celsius or 185 degrees Fahrenheit. You can also cook the fruit at a lower temperature for longer periods of time too. 30 minutes is long enough for a small 300-gram bag of most fruits. Small freezer bags with an airtight seal work well, and the Food Saver machine bags are heavy duty and good for sous vide cooking. The amount of heat used to cook fruit will change the flavor, so using more traditional techniques of boiling the syrup on the stove will have different results. To stop the fruit from cooking, transfer the bag to an ice bath to cool, which takes about 15 minutes. Place the cool bags of poached fruit into the refrigerator overnight to allow the syrups to develop a deeper flavor from the fiber before the syrup is strained out. After the poached fruit has cooled completely, strain the syrup into a glass measuring cup and add the contents to a hydrometer beaker to measure the sugar. A hydrometer usually has specific gravity or brick scale readings on the side of the instrument, and these numbers are used to determine the difference between water, which is usually 0, and the sugar solution being tested. Adding alcohol, fat, and sugar are the main ways to influence how hard the ice pop will freeze without adding any other types of stabilizers. So when the fructose is extracted from the fresh fruit, measuring the syrup's sugar level is easy as long as the syrups have a similar viscosity and there is enough liquid for the instrument to float in and get the reading from. Degrees Brix is the sugar content of a liquid. 1 degree Brix is 1 gram of sucrose and 100 grams of solution. If you have a new hydrometer, test it in water to calibrate the ruler on the side of the instrument, and if the water is not 0, add or subtract the difference from the total. The more sugar in the solution, the hydrometer rises up. Thick purees will not be very accurate because the buoyancy of the hydrometer will be affected differently. Making several flavors of layered ice pops at home is easier when you are organized. Add numbers and labels to the molds and write down how the flavors are being layered to make it easier to remember which one is which. Assemble the syrups you want to use and taste the syrups before adding the syrups to the molds. These molds hold 100 milliliters of liquid, so to make different layers, use a shot glass to make each layer the thickness you are looking for. To make 3 layers, add a 30 milliliter shot of the darkest syrup on the bottom of the mold. Syrups will sink to the bottom as they are freezing, so to create a contrasting effect in the appearance of the ice pop, the lighter colors will not be diluted as bad if they are layered on top of a darker color. The hydrometer helps us to find the texture we are looking for as well as the taste. The hydrometer readings show that the 10 syrups that were tested have different levels of sugar and will have different textures as a result. Place the ice pop molds in the bottom of the freezer to make the layer hard enough to support the next layer, at least a few hours. If the layer is not frozen before the next layer is added, the colors will bleed together a bit, which is not that big of a deal and does not affect the final taste of the pop. You can adjust all the flavors to the same amount of sugar, but that would interfere with the natural taste of the fruit. Not all fruit has the same amount of sugar naturally, and if we disturb that natural balance, the flavors will be very confusing when we start layering different flavors together. So adjust the syrup sugar level to make the pop taste good. The texture has been adjusted when the honey was added to the syrup to help macerate the fruit and make the fruit easier to poach, so adding more sugar will not improve the taste of the pops, just the texture. I found these little plastic clamps handy for holding the sticks in the center of the mold, and they are dishwasher safe, so they're easy to keep clean for the kitchen. I make sure the stick will stand up properly and at the right height, and place the rack of ice pop molds on the bottom of the freezer to harden. When the molds come out of the freezer and the sticks stand up on their own, the next layer needs to be added quickly and put back into the freezer without disturbing the bottom layers. The individual ice pop molds are handy because it allows full access and makes it easier to fill, but take care not to be rough and disturb the bottom layers when doing so. Let the ice pops harden up overnight. Do not be in a hurry to unmold the pops and you will have better results. When you add a tablespoon of cream or buttermilk to a fruit syrup and stir it in, the cream or buttermilk will suspend itself in the syrup to create a slightly different texture. Adding liquids to the syrup will dilute the flavors too, so if the syrup is delicately flavored, the fat in the dairy will dull your ability to taste them. Natural citrus fruits can benefit by a little buttermilk that will allow the natural citrus flavors to stand out more. Old-fashioned buttermilk with 3% butter fat will not change the texture of the pop much, but will allow some of the more natural citrus flavors to bloom and become easier to identify as the pop melts. Strongly flavored fruit syrups like raspberry, strawberry, and cherry can be mellowed with a little cream to pair more easily with a more delicate flavor. When it is time to release the molds, we need to work quickly before the pops start to melt. You can hold the mold under hot tap water for a few seconds, but using a 500 ml mason jar filled with hot tap water and dipping the mold into it for a few seconds works the best. Commercially made ice pops in the supermarket are flavored and stabilized in a different way to survive the long storage and shipping temperature changes. and should not be used as a comparison to how your natural unprocessed pops turn out. The mold should release the ice pop after 2 or 3 seconds. If the pop does not release, the dipping water is not hot enough. The ice pops need to be served before they melt or placed back into the freezer. A chilled down small sheet pan with parchment paper will help stop them from melting too quickly.